a little while. I don't think I need this, do I? I'll just get it out of my way. So, I notice outside on the marquee that the one-act plays are in progress here. So I don't know if this would be a comedy or a tragedy here today, but I'll try to make it at least a little bit informative. This is the time of year when there's Groundhog Day, and every year they do kind of a ceremony. Of course, they bring the groundhog out and they have a big ceremony, and everybody has an event for one day, and the next day they all forget about it. And well, it's kind of the same as this speech here. Every year they drag me out again for another day and talk about what's going on, and tomorrow everybody forgets about it and gets on with their lives. But hopefully while you're here today, you can at least get some information from what I'm going to tell you, and we'll talk about what's going on. All of you have in front of you a list of things that happened with the city this year that Lynn Lander put together, city manager. And my talk today is state of the city, not state of city government. And it's not really a speech. I'm just going to talk to you about some things. Lynn is the person who runs city government now, and consequently all the departments answer to him, and the things that you see in front of you are the things that Lynn and the city department heads worked on during the year. And those things end up reflected in his budget and his budget address. So I don't want to duplicate that here today. Those things and the things going forward, Lynn will deal with in his budget address here coming up a few months here down the line. So instead I wanted to talk about the city rather than city government. And when I transitioned 2 years ago from being a mayor and city manager, I had kind of new duties. Mayor and cheerleader is my new duties now. Although I was some when I was both before. But I feel a responsibility to point out the good things in Aberdeen, to point out the positive things that we have in our future, and to do that on a more regular basis, and that's kind of a lot what I'm going to do today. Not that there aren't some negative things, but I'm going to do a lot of that today. I would say the state of the city of Aberdeen, if you had to describe it in one word, is transition. We are in a transition in Aberdeen. And I don't know if we're at the end of it, but I know we're not at the beginning of it. Transition started 8 or 10 years ago. And Brenda from the CVB mentioned to me when she came back to town that she hardly recognized the town for all of the changes. And how long had you been gone, Brenda?
Almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years. And so that occurred to me that if those of us that are here all the time and see these things happening don't necessarily notice them as they are going on. And we've had so many things happen in the last 10 years that the city in so many ways is not even comparable to what it was then. If you look around at all of the other cities of our size around South Dakota, none of them have made this kind of progress. Certainly some of them have made some, but none of them all of this kind of progress across all of the spectrums. I'm not going to try to say why. A pretty good case could be made that over the last 8 to 10 years, or 8 to 10 years, where the farm economy has really been great. And certainly we rely on that a lot. But for whatever the reason, about 8 or 10 years ago, we were a really sleepy little community that was dominated by negative thinking, dominated by people who would find a reason why things couldn't happen when you tried to do something, and dominated by people you would meet almost every day who would complain about the fact that Aberdeen was nowhere and was going nowhere. And 10 years later, I don't think we say that anymore. Some do, certainly, but not that many of us. So if we look back 8 or 10 years, I've been fortunate during 8 of those years to be the mayor. And I want to make clear that what I'm talking about today is not about me, not about any individual. For me to be here and claim any responsibility for what's changed here in Aberdeen would be like the rooster taking credit for a beautiful sunrise. I'm just here to tell you about what's been happening. It's been a combination of private enterprise, leadership, and business and government that's done this over the last 8 to 10 years. Well, earlier this year I was making a presentation to a group of investors hoping that they would invest some money in a project in Aberdeen. And I used this slideshow to show them some of the investments that we had made over the past 8 to 10 years here in Aberdeen, that we had made as a city and as institutions. And just to give an idea of what kind of an investment we made and what we've done to try to make our city better. And I'm going to get up in front here so I can see what's on there. So I asked my wife, we'll just go through this quickly and remind you. You all know this, but it's pretty impressive when you see it all at once. So just keep up with me if you can. The Northern Center, I don't even know how many. 8 million. Okay. 8 million for that. Millions of dollars for the addition that's now being done at Northern. $3 million for Swisher Field. We had Roncalli Primary School. The next slide is Roncalli Elementary. Those two were about $8 million between them. Next slide is Roncalli High School, which is being remodeled. Eventually that'll be about $7 million. Aberdeen Central, that's about $30 million. Simmons Middle School, I think that was $4 or $5 million for that. The Aberdeen YMCA was a $12 million project. We put $4 million into the ARC, the old Aberdeen Central. It's now our Parks and Recreation headquarters. $2 million into recreational trails. We have more trails than either Sioux Falls or Rapid City. $7 million into the Aquatic Center. $7 million for a new Aberdeen police station. Fire station number 1, and the next two are number 2 and 3. A total of $3 million added to our fire and rescue operations. $17 million the Aberdeen Water Treatment Plant that you're paying through your water fees. $13 million for the wastewater facility. You're paying for that through your sewer fees. Margo, how much we spend downtown? A couple million? A couple million downtown on various projects, and we'll do more there. And that's a pretty good list. And that is just the list of things done to public places. When you take a look at some other things, you realize, like what Brenda said, what a change we've had in the city. And I'm going to go through these fairly quickly, but it's awesome I was going to go out and take pictures of these, but there's just too darn many of the things that we have added to this city in the last 10 years. Let's just think about food places for a start. We've got brand new restaurants, Max and Irma's, Culver's, IHOP, and Qdoba, and either totally remodeled or rebuilt. McDonald's, Mavericks, Kentucky Fried Chicken, The Ward, The Starlight, Arby's, Bully's right here in the Ramada, pizza places, Kessler's Cafe, Airport Cafe, Daddy's, Subway restaurants, and Chinese restaurants, and others are planned. All of those have been either remodeled or totally redone in just the last 10 years. How about major businesses in Aberdeen in the last 8 or 10 years? Walmart, Ashley Furniture, the Hampton Complex, Titan Machinery going up, Runnings that's going to be redone, Primrose, Carl's, numerous new bank buildings and other financial buildings, the new truck place out west, the new Har Motors, retail. We've got tons of new casinos and new payday loan places. I don't know if there's a connection there or not, but we've got lots of those. All kinds of new businesses, retail downtown. We have what are called strip malls all over town, but the new ones that they're building look nicer. You don't even want to call them strip malls anymore. A lot of small retail spaces. We've got all kinds of new office buildings. In the area of churches, we've got, First United Methodist, of course, was one of the major things that we see, but there are churches that have sprung up all over town, new churches too, more than a handful of those. In the medical area, the Avera remodeling alone is completely changed about a 3-block area in the middle of downtown with all the changes at Avera, plus the doctor's offices, the clinic, the imaging center, the therapy, the new Worthmore Center on South Main. Something's been going on at Avera, something new just about every year. We have, of course, the new Sanford Medical Complex going up and what's been done there, and the work at the Surgical Center. When you look at residential, think of the new residential areas in the last 8 to 10 years that are now there that really weren't there before.